What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 9 of Cover Your Balls. I am Mitch Balla. That is Jordan McKelly. We're your hosts, and we got a packed show today. We're going to preview all the conference championships this weekend in college football.
All of them.
We're going to give you our NFL picks, Jordan. Our locks of the week. You got a lock of the week?
Oh, I got a lock of the week. I'm just waiting.
I have a lock of the week, and it's not the Raiders. I can tell you that right now. But before we dive into college football with our college football analyst and special guest of the day, Jordan, it's 4 o'clock, which means it's time for our top 4 at 4. And today,
Woo, right there. Look at that.
look at that. Wow, what great graphic by you.
Thank
Phenomenal.
you, sir. I appreciate it. I've worked pretty
So
hard on it.
I need you to go ahead and, as the fans can see here, your top 4 favorite college quarterbacks. But go ahead and explain your rankings here.
Yeah, at number 4, I have Johnny Manziel. Early on, guys, I hated Johnny Manziel until he made this one play against Alabama that was just unbelievable. After that, I love Money Manziel. He came to Cleveland, didn't have a good time, but it was nice having him. At number 3, I have Cardale Jones. Cardale Jones came in and with 3 games left in the season, did something no one's really ever done, and that's as a backup quarterback, take your team to a national title. I have him at number 3. At number 2, I have Craig the Book Krenzel. Craig Krenzel had like 35 on his ACT. The dude can pretty much be your dad. He can do anything that you need him to do and more. He's Craig Krenzel at number 2. At number 1, Michael Vick. I had 3 Atlanta Falcons jerseys when I was little with Michael Vick's name on them, and one of them I got for a bargain because his name was actually on the jersey backwards. What a deal. That's my top 4, Mitch.
That sounds like a great deal.
It was a great deal, and it was a
great
red jersey. It was pretty baller.
Oh, that's a dope jersey then. So Jordan, looking at my top 4 at 4, number 4 is Matty Mock, the Kenston, Ohio graduate. He's from Ohio, played at Mizzou, and let me tell you, Jordan would get coked up before playing college football. I don't know about you, that's pretty badass. I mean, if you can do coke before you play college football, then you're in my top 4.
Priorities.
I'm not condoning drugs, kids, so just stay away from them. But I mean, hey, I can't. He's older than me. Number 3, Troy Smith, one of the greatest Ohio State quarterbacks of all time.
Ever.
That 06, 07 Ohio State team, he was phenomenal. Heisman Trophy winner. Number 2, another Heisman Trophy winner. That is Vince Young from Texas. Man, oh man, was he electric.
Can't argue with that one.
And then number 1, one of my favorite college quarterbacks of all time, one of my favorite NFL quarterbacks of all time. That is Tim Tebow, and I love him so much because he left it all out there, and for some reason, he pissed off thousands of millions of people, and that just is a wonderful thing. So, Jordan, that is my top 4 at 4 for my favorite college quarterbacks, and let me tell you, if we did top 5, number 5 would have to be the guest we're bringing in right now. That is Jake Plata.
Hey, Jake. Welcome. What's going on?
Guys. Not much. Hey, that's great company to be in, Mitch. I really appreciate that comment.
No, number
Yes, of
5
course.
on the
I have
list.
you-
That's really high.
Yeah, that's saying something.
I have my favorite quarterbacks, and Jake was a phenomenal one at Dartmouth, and that's why he is with us today to preview the College Football Conference Championships this weekend. So, fellas, we'll dive into all the big ones, including all the ranked teams that have or jockeying for college football playoff seeding. And so let's get started. As you see there's the list of games we're going through. So we'll start in the ACC Championship. This is a non-Power 5 conference championship, but Cincinnati comes in on the list, ranked 9th in the playoff seeding against Tulsa, who's 23rd. So, Jake, I'll start with you. What are you looking for in this game?
So for Cincinnati, first off, I just want to say that I hate what happened to them in the college football playoff rankings. They don't play a game, obviously, and they drop 1 spot, which is the same amount of spots that Florida drops after losing, being 28-point favorites at home. But that aside, I think Cincinnati wins this game. Something else that's actually important is that this game is being played at Cincinnati's home field. So with all that going their way, I love the talent they have. I love their quarterback. He's averaging 8 yards a carry. He's had a very efficient year through the air. I think Cincinnati's going to run away with this one.
I like it. Mitch, I think that Cincinnati's going to do everything imaginable to try to hurt Tulsa in every way in this game. They need some street cred. No one believes in Cincinnati, so they might try to harm an athlete. If someone gets shanked during the game, I will not be surprised. Jake, I agree with you. I like them by a lot. I think they have an enormous chip on their shoulder, and I think you're going to see it from the start of the game all the way through the end.
Well, I'm glad you both picked Cincinnati because I'm also picking them because I agree. They have a huge chip on their shoulder after not playing and moving down. That included Florida staying ahead of them, which is whack, if you ask me, after losing to a 23-point underdog at home. But we've already touched on that enough. We'll talk about it later. But I think Cincinnati is going to have to pull some 2015 Ohio State type championship performance if they want to get into the college football playoff. So, guys, assuming Cincinnati wins, and they're going to need some help, is it going to take a Ohio State, Wisconsin Big Ten championship type game for them to prove to the committee they're legit, or are the Bearcats out?
No way they're scoring 59 points. I don't know how you have that game. I mean, do you guys think that type of game is even possible against Alabama? 3 out of the 5 last games against Alabama, they've held their opponent to 3 or less points. 3 or less in their last 5 games. In the midst of everybody being able to score the football in college football and in the NFL, Alabama is still holding people to hardly any. I mean, the most points they've had scored against them, which was a lot, it was against Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, and since then, they really haven't given up that many points at all. I like Alabama by 1 million. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think.
No, yeah, I saw Florida's performance against Alabama and was extremely disappointed, not only because I was kind of rooting for Kyle Trask in the Heisman race, but just the way their defense performed. I think Alabama's going to come out and show up like they always do and blow Florida out of the water.
Guys, this game is over. It's over before kickoff. It's over before the Gators get on the plane to leave. Alabama is going to throttle the Gators. I'm more worried about the over-under for shoes thrown in this game than I am if Florida has a chance of winning this football game. I want to see what the over-under in Vegas is. If the over-under is 1.5, I might go over. I mean, they were frustrated after losing or having a tight game with LSU. I would think they're going to be real frustrated when they're down 21-0 in the blink of an eye. I don't think Florida's good. They're not. They are definitely not deserving a 7. I think Cincinnati had a legitimate right to be upset at those rankings, as did multiple other college football teams, if you ask me. So I'm taking Bama here. I think Bama rolls. I think we see that Big Brother, or Bama is still Big Brother in the SEC, and there's nobody else close to them after their 1-year hiatus from LSU last year. But it looks like we're all on the same page with Alabama.
Has there been a team that fans have felt more animosity towards in the past? Like, I can't think of a team more hated than Florida right now. Like, not only are they not winning, they just keep opening their mouths. Can you guys remember a team like this where their head coach that's in the mix just won't shut up? Like, I can't think of another coach who's done something like this in this specific circumstance where he's a game or two away from possibly a championship game and he still won't shut up.
The only team I can think of is those Jim Harbaugh Michigan teams. I mean, I just can't help but hate them every year. And there's been some years where they've had somewhat of a legitimate argument that they should be in a championship game or maybe make the college football playoffs. So aside from that, though, I completely agree with you. I don't think there's been a team more hated than this current Florida team.
Well, I would have to agree. I mean, and Florida has nobody to blame but themselves. Jordan, we talked about this on Tuesday. If you want to complain that you're not going to get in the dance now, well, did you take care of business every game? The answer is no. You lost to Texas A&M. You lost to LSU. You take care of business. You don't have to sit here and complain, because if they were undefeated, I can guarantee you they are ranked ahead of Ohio State right now. They're ranked ahead of Clemson right now.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt in my mind. But when you just decide, oh, hey, we clinched the SEC championship, and it started last week in practice. I guarantee it. They had a bad week of practice saying, oh, we're going to cakewalk over LSU. We win, we're in against Alabama, and we're going to the football playoff. And psych, you have players that are undisciplined. You have a coach that is a crybaby, and that's what happens. And that's why they're going to get just blown off this field quicker than ever before, I think. And I agree with you. I don't think there's ever been a coach or team with more animosity towards them. But Jake made a good point, but Jim Harbaugh and Michigan. So I'll watch the game if it's on, but I'm probably not going to watch it too long. The game I will watch, because it'll be the only game on, guys, will be the Pac-12 championship, because that is on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. That is a Friday night kickoff between number 13 USC and the unranked Oregon Ducks.
Well, you had to do something for people to watch that game.
I agree, because I definitely wouldn't watch it if it was during all the other games on Saturday. So, Jake, tell me this. Does USC have a legitimate argument to make the college football playoff if they beat Oregon and have 0 ranked wins?
I don't think so. And I think a lot of people are comparing them to Ohio State, where they only have 5 regular season games under their belt. But they want to neglect the fact that Ohio State clearly has one of the most talented teams in the country. And preseason rankings, as much as we hate them, they do mean something. Ohio State was ranked in the top 4, and they have not lost. So I think regardless of what USC does here, I don't think they have a chance or a legitimate argument in this one.
Yeah, when's the last time we've seen a team in a championship game at one game above 500? Oregon is in the Pac-12 championship, and they're 3-2. That's how bad the Pac-12 is right now. And granted, we're in the midst of a pandemic. I understand that everything's been a little wacky, except in Michigan. They still suck. But everything for everybody else has been a little different. And so maybe that's why the Pac-12 is so down. I can't think of a game that I want to watch less this weekend. I definitely have USC winning, but they have 0 shot, Mitch and Jake, at even being in the conversation for the college football playoff, and they shouldn't be.
I mean, you look at their schedule. They've had 3 wins come from behind in the fourth quarter, I believe, under 2 minutes, and 2 of them were against unranked teams with losing records. That's not a top 4 team in the country. Hell, that's not a top 10 team in the country. They're lucky they're ranked at 13. The only reason they're at 13 is because the Pac-12 needs a representative in these rankings. That's strictly the only reason. This team would get blown off the field by Ohio State. I think Cincinnati could hang with this team, if not beat them.
Oh, absolutely. I think they're a better team.
USC is a good football team. However, they're playing a team that's not any good. So USC is going to win. They're going to go undefeated at 6-0, and they're going to be Pac-12 champions in my eyes. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys see an upset happening, but I think the Trojans roll here and beat Oregon.
Yeah, I think he's going to save his job. I think this is great for the head coach of USC, who struggled the last couple of years. What is this? Hilton? Is it?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think they're the same guy, and they were thinking about firing him at one point, firing him at one point. So that's interesting. He might keep his job. Probably will.
Jake, are you taking USC then too?
Yeah, I will be taking USC in this game, especially, I mean, Oregon's coming off a 2-game skid, and I think USC rolls.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to another conference championship game where no defense has ever played, and that is the Big 12 championship versus number 6 Iowa State with 2 losses, and number 10 Oklahoma with 2 losses. Guys, that's a noon kickoff on Saturday. I don't know what to think here, so let's just go through our game picks before we start running through scenarios for these teams. Jake, I'll start with you. Are you taking the Cyclones and Matt Campbell, or are you taking Lincoln Riley and the Sooners?
Yeah, as much as I don't know if they deserve being number 6 right now, I think I'm going to go with Iowa State just because I would love for Matt Campbell, a Mountain Union guy, to have a legitimate argument for being in a college football playoff. So Oklahoma's been there 6 straight years. They obviously have a lot of experience there, but I love Matt Campbell's culture and everything he's built with this team, so I think they're going to come away with this one.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I like Iowa State. I like him possibly to – I mean, the question is, does Spencer Rattler, how well does he play? Does he protect the football? If he protects the football, I think if Oklahoma doesn't have any turnovers, obviously any team has a shot. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I think he turns the ball over a couple times. I like Iowa State.
I like the Cyclones as well. I got a lot of flack last episode when I said I think Matt Campbell is a better coach. I think he just does more with less, and that's why I'm taking him. It's a senior-heavy group. That Brock Purdy at quarterback, he's been there for a few years under Matt Campbell now. And how can you not take the guy from the 3-3-0? I mean, why? Ohio born and raised. I'm sticking with Iowa State here. I think Oklahoma is too young. I also think they're extremely overrated. But, guys, now this opens up the conversation for we're going to go ahead and for the sake of this show, say Iowa State wins because we're all taking them. Does Iowa State have a legitimate argument to get in the college football playoff after having 2 losses? One of them, the season opener to a Louisiana team where they got blown out.
I think their only legitimate argument for getting in the playoffs would be if Clemson were to lose to Notre Dame, which I don't see happening, and we'll get there. But even then, even with a 2-win Clemson team, you could easily see how the playoff committee would keep them above a conference champion Iowa State team. Obviously, an Ohio State loss would help their argument, but you look at the rankings now, A&M is still ranked in front of them. So how much does the committee weigh A&M not playing in a conference championship compared to if Iowa State were to win? So I think they need a lot to happen, and I don't know if it'll necessarily happen, but I do think they have an outside chance of getting in.
Guys, I need you to hear me, and I need you to look at me right in the eyes. Iowa State will get in the college football playoff if they win. I'm telling you right now, the only game they've lost, one of the games they lost is they lost the Raging Cajuns. Raging Cajuns are hot, guys. They're number 19.
Good football team.
Yeah, and that was early in the season. I don't think Iowa State should be ranked where they're ranked, but given that they are, and that is reality that they are ranked 6, I think not only do they have a shot to get in, but I think they have a really good argument, and possibly a better argument than Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State had a quarterback throw for over 500 yards against them, and let's not act like that quarterback was some star before the beginning of the year, because he wasn't. He wasn't at all. And so I don't know. I'm a Buckeye fan. I don't know how good Ohio State is, and I think Iowa State not only will probably get in, I think they maybe they should get in over a team that's only played 5. At max, Saturday will be 6 games. Mitch, what do you think?
I couldn't disagree more. I think Iowa State is – I think them and Florida have no business being where they're ranked right now, both for different reasons. But I think if you put Iowa State on the field with any of the teams in the top 4 right now, they're losing by 2+ scores. I'm talking 2 touchdowns, not 2 field goals. I think they're there because of what potentially could happen. Like Jake said, and we'll get to it, if Notre Dame beats Clemson again, Clemson's out. Now, if Northwestern beats Ohio State, Ohio State's out. So now they're going to have to hop. They'll hop those teams if they win their conference because they're conference champions. But if everybody wins according to how it's likely to play out, Iowa State will not be getting in, I don't think. I think they will take a 1-loss Clemson team, a 1-loss Notre Dame team, and an undefeated Ohio State, and then Bama's in. I think we all agree Bama's in no matter what happens. Mm-hmm. They look like the most dominant team all year. So we already have one team in the college football playoff at number 1. So I don't think Iowa State has a shot unless they get a lot of help, and that might include a sloppy win or a loss by Texas A&M against Tennessee this week.
Mm-hmm.
Will that happen? I don't know. I mean, Tennessee's been known to just suck. They usually always suck, but who knows? Maybe they pull something out of their butt, and we see an upset. But
well, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
Do you honestly think that Notre Dame could beat Iowa State by 2 touchdowns? Do you honestly think that? I might take Iowa State head-to-head against Notre Dame, possibly. I think it's a pick 'em. I bet you the line on the game would be 3 points. I bet you it's a lot closer than you think. It is certainly not 2 touchdowns. Notre Dame is not that good.
I'll say this. Yes, because I just don't think the teams in the Big 12 this year are any good. I really don't. I agree.
2 touchdowns is a lot.
That's a lot of points to be giving up to a Matt Campbell team.
But that's what the Big 12 is known for. Am I wrong? They usually give up lots and lots of points.
But everybody's known for giving up points this year, right? I mean, even Alabama gave up 1 million points to Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin's been in Ole Miss 5 minutes.
Lane Kiffin knew the plays that were coming, according to Nick Saban. That's the only reason.
Yeah, that was a pretty wild statement. When he said that.
I just don't. I think Coastal Carolina has a better argument. I really do. That's how I feel. If you want to get to the college football playoff, take care of your damn business. Don't lose to a Louisiana team that you paid millions of dollars to come play you. Don't lose to TCU or Kansas State or whoever you lost to in the regular season. Them and Florida are in the same boat right now. You can't cry about other teams and what their schedule does because you have to play who's on your schedule. And if you can't beat who's on your schedule, tough.
Sounds a lot worse when you tell them that they paid them to come get an ass whooping. It sounds a lot worse when you put it like that.
They did though. You paid a team millions of dollars to come to your stadium, and they beat your ass.
Yeah, I mean they definitely paid them a lot of money. I mean they pay really good D1 and D2 high school teams to come. I remember McKinley would pay teams from Canada to come play them to open. So they probably played Louisiana a lot of money. to come
A
play
lot of
that
money.
game. And yeah. I mean, I think me and Jake both agree with, we agree with you in terms of how good we think Iowa State is in terms of maybe they don't deserve to be there, but I don't agree with you on the Notre Dame thing, not even for a second. Not even for a second.
We can agree to disagree because I do. We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the next game, Jordan. Which, if you throw up the graphic, I want to make sure I'm going in order here.
Oh yeah, that's why we got them.
And so we already touched on Bama, Florida. I don't think we really need to touch on that again. So let's go to the ACC with Notre Dame at number 2 versus number 3 Clemson. This definitely
Big
is
game.
the most interesting game of the year, interesting game of the weekend, and it's going to have the most college football seeding playoff implications on it. So, Jordan, we'll start with you. What are you looking for in the ACC championship? That's a 4 p.m. kickoff on Saturday.
No one can honestly think that Ian Book is as good as Notre Dame is. I think Notre Dame is a great football team. I do not trust Ian Book at all. I think he's a good quarterback, but I don't trust him versus Clemson in this game at all. I think Trevor Lawrence and Clemson gets back on track. If Notre Dame beats Clemson, that is going to throw everything off because you can't put Clemson in the top 4. So it's going to be really interesting. I like Clemson. I think this will be a really, really close game. I think Dabo Swinney gets the edge, and I hope he does because I don't want to hear him complaining after the game. Although even if he wins, he'll probably complain anyways. So it doesn't probably matter if Clemson beats Notre Dame or not. I think they will, though. I'll take Clemson versus Notre Dame. What do you guys got?
Well, Jake, before you go, I want to jump in here. Dabo Swinney did make comments that both these teams are already in the college football playoff. How do you feel about that? That this game doesn't even need to be played because both these teams are in the college football playoff. Do you agree with that?
I disagree with that. I think if Clemson loses, they're clearly out of the top 4. I mean, you lose to what I think is a really good Notre Dame team, and despite popular belief, even though I think Clemson's going to win, I think it's going to be closer than most people are giving Notre Dame credit. I know Trevor Lawrence is back, but scoring points wasn't really the issue for Clemson the last time these two teams met. They scored 40 points. Their defense gave up 47 points to Ian Book and this Notre Dame offense. And I think if Notre Dame wins this game, I think Clemson's out, and rightfully so. If Clemson wins, I think Notre Dame still hangs on to the 4th spot, and there really aren't any playoff implications in that case.
I completely agree with that. I completely agree. Specifically because on Tuesday, Jordan, we talked about some of these wins that other teams had and how Clemson's win against Miami this year was their only ranked win at the time, and it looks terrible now after North Carolina throttled them. But that is another ranked win for Notre Dame that they have on their resume. So I do think if Notre Dame loses this game, which I think will happen, that they're in. Right now, I see Alabama and Notre Dame already penciled in. The question is, if Clemson loses, are they in or are they out? And I think they're out. You cannot take a team with 2 losses and no conference championship. I think Clemson wins strictly because Trevor Lawrence is back, but I agree, Jake. Their problem wasn't offense, it was defense. But Notre Dame did have maybe 3 stops the entire game. I'm trying to think because, 40 points is a lot. So
Sure.
you have to wonder what happens when you put Trevor Lawrence back in instead of a true freshman quarterback, albeit he's a highly ranked and highly touted quarterback.
He's unbelievable.
He really is.
He's really good.
You already know who Clemson has for the next 3 years, and it's kind of a scary thought already. But Trevor Lawrence is the consensus number 1 pick in the NFL draft in April, assuming he leaves, which I think he's going to. There's been a lot of discussion. I think Clemson wins this game and gets revenge on Notre Dame, but Notre Dame does keep it close, I think. Both teams don't have a defense. I will not be shocked if both these teams in the first round of the college football playoff get beat. I think that's what will happen. I think the loser of this game will drop down to 4 and play Alabama, and the winner will jump up to number 2 and play whoever's number 3. And who is number 3, you ask? Well, that takes us to the next conference championship game. And that will be the Ohio State University versus Northwestern, number 4 versus number 14. Kickoff is at noon on Saturday, Lucas Oil Stadium. So, guys, Jake, we'll start with you. Does Ohio State, who is a 20.5-point favorite, 1, cover, and 2, convince the committee to stay in at number 4 and make the college football playoff?
It's interesting that you asked about the cover because I think that 20.5 is right on my. I don't know which way to go because similar to Iowa State and Matt Campbell, I love Pat Fitzgerald and the culture that he's built at Northwestern. I think they have a really good program. It really surprised me when they slipped up against Michigan State. But I do think that they're going to come ready to play. Like 2 years ago when they played Ohio State in this game, I think they came ready to play and gave Ohio State more than they were expecting. With that being said, I think Ohio State performs really well in this game year in and year out. So I think they're going to come ready and make a statement to the College Football Playoff Committee showing that they do belong to be in the top 4. I would take the 20.5 for Ohio State and do think that they get into the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, do any of us think that any of Northwestern's athletes you could probably pick? Northwestern's best athlete probably isn't in between Ohio State's top 15 athletes, right? I mean, Northwestern is outgunned completely in this game. They don't have any of the weapons that Ohio State has on the inside or the outside. I mean, it's a complete mismatch because Northwestern just doesn't strike quick. They're more a death by paper cut. They'll push the ball downfield. They'll get downfield, but long drives. Ohio State, 10 seconds. Chris Olave in the end zone. It's just a complete mismatch. I actually think that Northwestern loses by more than 20 points, and I would take the over for sure. Ohio State.
Jordan, I'm glad you mentioned Chris Olave's name because I purposely didn't mention this to you guys yet, and I'm not sure if you guys are aware. I have a source, no names, please. I won't release his name. And there's been a lot of chatter today on the Twitter world that Ohio State apparently has had another COVID outbreak, and one of their star wide receivers is in jeopardy. Now, I'm assuming that is either Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson. Now, if they're only down one of those wide receivers, I'm not worried.
Does it matter if they go to the 6th best wide receiver?
Does not matter at all.
Doesn't matter.
I'll take our true freshman wide receivers.
They have 8 5-star recruits at receivers or something crazy like that.
Exactly.
So
I'm not that worried, but
it's unbelievable.
If Ohio State is down other playmakers, I'm not talking about just wide receivers, does this game get a little more tight and a little more interesting? And let's not forget, they might not have the athletes this team has, and I think Pat Fitzgerald is a phenomenal coach. He does less with more than most coaches do in the entire country. I think he's an extremely underrated coach, and given that Northwestern has strong academic bars to get over to get into that school, they're not like these other schools that, your ACT score, we'll pass that by. Or I believe some schools have waivers, what they say. But Northwestern has 3 4-year starting linebackers that have started every game since they were freshmen. So you're talking about 3 guys that know what they're doing on defense, know what they're calling on defense, which if Ohio State's down playmakers and down any offensive linemen, it may create a bump in the road. I'm not saying they're going to lose. Would you have any worry, though, if Ohio State, if to come tomorrow, you find out Ohio State is down X amount of players throughout the entire team?
As long as we have one playmaker, and his name is Justin Fields, I feel really confident about our chances. Despite Northwestern's leadership and all the experience that they've had, losing to a Michigan State team that Ohio State beat by 40, when Ohio State was also down players in that game, I just think the talent difference between the two teams is going to be too much for Northwestern to overcome.
Yeah, the only way I'll be nervous in this game, Mitch and Jake, is if at some point they say, all right, Ryan Day, you have to wrestle Pat Fitzgerald for the Big Ten championship. That is the only way I will be nervous in this game. There's no way they can beat us on the field. If the head coaches wrestled for the win, yeah, we'd lose. But that's not going to happen. We're still playing football this Saturday. We're not wrestling. So Buckeyes by 28.
I do think Ohio State rolls. I think Ohio State rolls in this because they know they have to. They're not going to win 59-0 like they did against Wisconsin back in 2014 going into the 15 playoff, but they're going to roll, and we know Ryan Day likes to run up that score and get style points, and I think that's what we'll see, barring a setback that would cause Justin Fields, for God's sake, to not play tomorrow. But I think we'll be fine. I think they move on, and that brings us to our last talking point. What is the final top six, so the first 4 in and the first 2 out, of the college football playoff rankings on Sunday at noon going to look like? Jake, I'll start with you.
Okay, so I think the top 4 for me are pretty set. Alabama 1, obviously. I think Clemson's going to win the ACC championship. So I put them at 2, Ohio State at 3, and Notre Dame at 4. Now is where we get into the difficult part. I don't think Texas A&M, a team that didn't even play in their conference championship, deserves to be in the top 6. So I'm putting them out immediately. I'm between 3 teams, and it's Iowa State, Cincinnati, and our boys, Coastal Carolina. I think that Cincinnati and Iowa State, I think that winning a conference championship needs to be taken into account. And I think Coastal, I mean, they're 11-0. They've played more games and have more film than anybody in the country. And if they win their conference championship, they deserve to end in the top 6. So I'm going to put Coastal at 6. I have Iowa State at 5, winning the Big 12 championship, and that leaves Cincinnati at 7 for me. Had to include them.
Wow.
I completely forgot to talk about Coastal Louisiana.
We did. We missed the Sun Belt preview. Do we want to go over it right now?
Coastal.
It's Coastal. Jake's taking Coastal.
Oh, it's Coastal. I'm sorry.
Coastal. It's their season. This is like their magical year. Everything's going to go their way, and they're just gonna take it home.
Jordan, you taking Coastal?
Yeah. Louisiana's wings aren't hot enough. Let me tell you what. They've already withstood so many challenges this year. Chanticleers by a million.
Yeah, it's the Chanticleers. It has to be the Chanticleers. I forgot. It's right here in front of me, and I forgot to bring up that game. So, way to go, Mitch.
It's all right.
But yeah, I'm taking Coastal over Louisiana. I think that is going to be an extremely guys. I think number 12 or number 19 both have arguments to move up in the rankings right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Coastal wins that game. But I am looking forward to watching that at 3:30 on Saturday. So, we did that game. So, Jordan, now you're top 6 in the college football playoff rankings.
Yeah, so this is how I think it's going to play out. Not sure. We'll find out. Number 1, I have Bama. I think Bama we can all agree, they are a step above everybody else. At number 2, I have Clemson. I think Clemson beats Notre Dame, like I said in that game. At number 3, I think Ohio State takes care of business, and I think they get in at number 3. But here's the kicker. I think Clemson beats Notre Dame. I think they hold Notre Dame out, maybe. I don't know. Iowa State at 4, Notre Dame at 5. Texas A&M, then I have Notre Dame at 6. No, Notre Dame at 5, Texas A&M at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're saying Clemson beats the brakes off Notre Dame so bad they will get dropped from the top 4?
I mean, if I were to bet on the game, I would bet that it's close. These are Jordan hunches that I think about when I lay down at night. These are just the intricacies of college football that I just can't quite explain to everybody. So we're just going to see how this thing plays out. I think it's going to play out like this, but we'll wait. We'll see.
All right. So the top 4 for me are not changing. It's just the top 4 teams are not changing. It's the seeding that changes. So Bama at 1 because I think Bama is the best team right now. The only argument you could possibly have is if Notre Dame beats Clemson again, does Notre Dame get to hop to number 1 having 2 top 3 wins over Alabama's 2 top 7 wins? You can make that argument, but I think it'll be Bama. I do think Clemson beats Notre Dame, though. I'm just giving that hypothetical out there. So I think Clemson goes to 2, Ohio State 3, and Notre Dame 4, strictly because they will not have Clemson and Notre Dame play for a third time that quickly. If they're going to play again, it'll be in the national championship, which I don't think there's any chance that happens. But Bama, Notre Dame, or Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and then guys, it's going to be Cincinnati at 5. Coastal.
I love it.
I think Cincinnati and Coastal both ball out in their championship game. Iowa State struggles. A&M is just not deserving. They're not. And maybe Tennessee beats them. So I'm hoping that that's what it is because I think that would be the best talking points for, how did this team get so close and not make it, blah, 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 that whatever caused the most controversy. But my top 4 is set. It's Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame. I'm rooting for it to be Coastal and Cincinnati at 5 and 6. Will it be? Probably not, but we'll check in next week on the show and see if that's the case.
It's tough. I think these are harder than I think the college predictions are when we're picking games are a lot harder than the NFL picks, just for the simple fact that I feel like there's so much unknown about a lot of these college teams, and we really don't know how the committee is viewing some teams, really. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens after this weekend. It's going to be interesting.
I agree. Jake, do you have anything else before we let you go?
No, I guess just commenting on your last point, I would say I would love to see Coastal and Cincinnati get that credit because I think it's important for the college football committee to say that the regular season matters. It's not just about how well you recruit. It's not just about how talented your team is. It's how you go out on the field and you perform. And if Cincinnati and Coastal both end up undefeated, I agree they probably don't deserve to be into the conversation for college football playoff. But being 5-6, I think, makes a statement for years to come from the committee.
I like it. I agree. I'm with you.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I rock with that. And I thank you, Jake Plata, for joining us today on episode 9 of Cover Your Balls. We'll have you back soon. We'll have you back to preview the bowl games. But thank you as always. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jake.
All right, guys.
Talk to you later.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That is Jake Plata.
I think I messed up with some of my college predictions there at the end. I think I have who I want to make it, Mitch, and then I have who I think they're gonna pick. Yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be interesting. I definitely messed up. I have to rethink about it.
Hey, that's okay. It's our show. That's
well,
all I can say to that.
Yeah, I don't know about Iowa State, man. But let's roll into our other segment. Go ahead. Let's switch it up.
Absolutely. First off, let's go into the half-hour headlines really quick. Just a few today. And Jordan, we're going to start with a really cool one, actually. I don't know if you saw this. Larry Nance Jr. of the Cleveland Cavaliers posted something yesterday on social media.
What's up, Larry?
Asking all Cleveland locally owned businesses that are struggling right now to send them T-shirts, hats, or pieces of apparel from their local business. And Larry will wear a different business to support to every home Cavaliers game this year to get pictures taken, and then we'll auction off his game-worn jersey, and the proceeds of that will go to that business.
Is this on his OnlyFans account? Or is this
not on?
No, it's not. Okay, I'm sorry.
Not on his OnlyFans
Inappropriate.
account,
Keep going.
But I just thought it was really cool because, as we know, Larry Nance is a native of Cleveland. His dad playing here, so I just thought some good news, good karma. We'll start off the half-hour headlines with that. It's really cool to see what he's doing to support local businesses around Cleveland and how he's going to try to help them through these tough times that COVID's affected them. So I just want to start off with that one. Shout out to Larry Nance Jr.
Yeah. Hey, Larry Nance, I have your dad's basketball card in my dresser right now. Thank you. Go ahead. Next one. You're good.
Next, Jordan, I don't know if you saw this, but Marcus Peters during the Monday Night Football game spit in the direction of Jarvis Landry when Jarvis Landry was walking away with his head turned. Jarvis Landry since has seen the film and commented today calling Peters a coward for spitting in his direction and not owning it like a man. Do you agree with Jarvis? I
absolutely do. I mean, Marcus Peters has done things like this in the past before. This isn't like it's out of his character completely. A lot of those dominant cornerbacks and defensive backs, they have a lot of personality. They're incredibly competitive. They might be the most competitive people on the field. So my surprise? No. Am I even more less surprised that he didn't own up to it? No, not at all. He wouldn't be Marcus Peters, Mitch, if he did own up to it. So
I completely agree. I think Marcus Peters is a coward. There was also film that was acquired by TMZ on the plane where he called Jarvis Landry a girl and then called Odell Beckham Jr. another name. I thought that was pretty cowardish of him to do it when he's away from them. I think it's safe to say there will be a heated exchange when the Browns and Ravens meet next year in the regular season, assuming they don't meet in the AFC Championship this year, which I don't think is likely. But moving on, sticking with Jarvis Landry, the Giants are placing their starting corner, James Bradbury, on the reserve COVID list this weekend. He is one of the top corners in the league this year, and he will miss Sunday Night Football against the Browns. That's big news for Jarvis Landry and the rest of the wide receivers. Is he going to have a big game now?
I think it will depend entirely on Stefanski and what he wants to do. I imagine that they will attack wherever the Giants are weak. He seems very Bill Belichick in terms of he checks out what you do really well, and he doesn't try to attack what you do well at all. I like Stefanski. I think it's the game plan. I think I don't know if it's going to be a big game through the air or not. Very curious. I don't know. What do you think about that? I haven't really thought about that. I didn't even know that information until you just said that. So maybe I should know that.
Well, no, I like keeping it from you just to get a genuine reaction from you sometimes.
Trying to figure out how I don't know. Baker's been on a hot streak. I feel like he has to have a game where he's not not tossing the ball well.
And we'll dive into what we think will happen Sunday night in our next segment where we preview.
Got to check out the
NFL
weather
news.
too, because it's at MetLife. So it's
That
in
is
New
true,
York.
at MetLife.
Next two are at MetLife.
I think Jarvis will have a score. Will he have 150 yards receiving? No. I think the Browns will ground and pound this week and run the ball a lot, but I do think that they'll get Jarvis involved and he will score. And if not him, that means Hollywood Higgins or DPJ will score. But just an interesting fact for the game this week, knowing that Bradbury will be out.
Thank you for the
So-
fact.
Got you always. Moving on, Jordan. Our good friend of the show, Dan Mullen, said today that he will roll the Gators college football playoff chances after we win. How do you feel about Dan Mullen saying after they beat Alabama?
Even if they beat Alabama, even if they did, they still wouldn't deserve to make the college football playoff. Even if they did, they still don't deserve to make the college football playoff. They were 23-point favorites against LSU. 23. Michael Jordan's number. LeBron James' number. 23 points.
Anderson
And they-
Dejo's number.
In the Anderson Dejo's number. And they lost to a 2-5 LSU team. I don't care about anything Dan Mullins says, and when he speaks, I hit mute immediately. He's a moron.
I would agree that he is a moron. I think he's an incompetent football coach, and I think he doesn't even know what he's doing. He was just blessed to have a lot of talented players around them, and that doesn't mean his quarterback, Kyle Trask, who's not even the 9th best player on that team like we've talked about. So only one more headline for you is Ngakwe, who was the defensive lineman that was holding out from the Jaguars and finally got traded to the Vikings and then traded over to the Ravens, gets to return home this week against the Jaguars, who didn't trade him when he wanted to be traded. Gardner Minshew said that he will be out for blood versus the Jaguars this weekend. One, is that odd to hear from your starting quarterback? And two, will he be out for blood against the Jaguars?
He's only out for blood if they ever line him up behind Lamar Jackson in a goal line stance to get the ball in the end zone. That's when it... Yeah, we'll see how serious it is. If he is in any goal line offensive formation as a defensive tackle, because he is a defensive tackle, correct?
Correct.
Then he's out for blood. Unless he scores this weekend versus the Jags, I can't say he's out for blood, Mitch.
I don't think he's out for blood either. I'm kind of taken back by the fact that the starting quarterback of your own team would say that about an opposing player. Like is Gardner Minshew shaking in his boots right now, thinking, "Oh my gosh, Ngakwe is going to come get me"? Is that what does he have nightmares right now?
Well, yeah, he is starting this week. He's finally getting the start for the first time in weeks. We get to see what is it?
Minshew mania.
With his mustache. That's gonna be a really interesting game. And when I say interesting game, I mean not at all.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about some interesting games this weekend. There aren't many of them. In fact, there's only one game in the NFL this weekend that has two teams above 500 playing each other. I don't know if you knew that. And it's probably the game of the week. Not probably, actually. It is the game of the week, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So let's go ahead and give our picks.
Let's do
before
it.
we dive into the Browns matchup. And so we'll start with Thursday Night Football, Jordan. The Chargers versus
The Raiders.
And everybody that sees the screen right now, Jordan's picks are on the right, on the Christmas tree background for the holidays, and I am the candy cane background. Right away, we're disagreeing, Jordan, and I wonder why.
That's because you hate the Raiders, Mitch. It doesn't matter what the Raiders could do. Do the rest of the season, you're not going to like them. It's kind of how I view about the Colts. They broke your trust once, and not really broke your trust. You just have never liked the Raiders. I think they get the win this week, though. I think Derek Carr puts the entire team on his back. I think they have a huge party and break every COVID rule in Vegas, and they get the job done, Mitch.
Yeah, see, I just disagree because the Raiders secondary is already weak. Justin Herbert, who is vying for Offensive Rookie of the Year, is going to ball out, and they want to save Anthony Lynn's job, which I think it's too late to save because he's a horrendous NFL coach. And the Raiders are frauds. I've been saying it week in and week out. I'm waiting for Raiders fans to come after me because I will fight you any way you want, and anywhere you
will
want.
fight them.
I'll fight them.
All right.
All right, so let's just keep going on. So now we got some Saturday football. And
we do have Saturday football this week.
We have two NFL games on Saturday this week. The Buffalo Bills versus the Denver Broncos, Jordan. And We disagree again. You're going with the Broncos?
Upset City. It's happening. It's going down. Broncos are playing great defense, a very well-coached team. I think they've gotten competent quarterback play. I mean, threw for 4 touchdowns last week. I think Drew Lock keeps the train on the tracks. The Bills overlook the Broncos. I'll take the Broncos.
Not so fast, my friend. The Buffalo Bills. There's one thing that everybody knows about them, right, Jordan? And that's nobody circles the
wagons like the Buffalo
Bills. And they're going to circle the wagons, all right. The Broncos are going to have a bunch of wagons, and they're going to get circled before kickoff, and it's not even going to be a game. The Bills are legit. Right now, actually, I think they look like the best or second best team in all the NFL, and that's why the Bills are going to beat the Broncos. So
agreed.
Let's go over to the second Saturday Night Football game.
Yep.
Carolina Panthers and Teddy B versus Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, Jordan. We agree it's the Packers here. Is there any shot the Panthers pull the upset?
I mean, I think it's possible. I mean, anytime you have a competent quarterback, it's possible to upset a better team on the road. Teddy is not afraid of the bright lights. I mean, he's at his best. He's nowhere near Aaron Rodgers, but he doesn't have to be at his best. He just has to go up against a Packers defense that at times this year, Mitch, has been really sad. So it depends what defense the Panthers are playing Sunday. But, I mean, I still like the Packers, no doubt.
I agree. They have the MVP candidate right now, in my opinion, and I like them because, well, their defense is so bad, Jordan, because Mike Pettin is their defensive coordinator, and we remember Mike Pettin from his days in Cleveland, and that's why we're taking the Packers. And so next up, we have the Colts playing the very low Houston Texans, who put up 7 points versus the Bears last week. I thought if you're such a good quarterback, you're supposed to put up a lot of points.
Supposed to be.
That didn't seem to happen for Deshaun Watson last week. Oh, but Mitch, his player dropped the ball in the end zone. Well, he threw it in the sun. So that's a tough one. You know, we've all been there before.
The dude was crying Sunday, all right? Give Deshaun Watson a break. He was crying on the sideline. Don't you want a guy who wants to win so bad?
Well, if he wants to win that so bad, play better. It's that simple. Just play better. I mean, he played horrendous against the Bears.
Who's he throwing to?
That's okay. I've seen him run
Crennel is Deshaun Watson's coach. Keep going. You're good.
His
Keep rolling.
Awareness,
I can't
hear his awareness was terrible. It's 4th and goal, and you take a sack. The one thing you can't do. And what did he do? Took a sack. Can't do it. That's
Maybe he was tired. Maybe he wanted to lay down. Maybe Deshaun Watson was tired. Did you think about where he was at that time of the game? I would have been tired too.
You're right. And top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL don't do that. That's why he's not top 5. And moving on, because the Colts are going to roll. We have the Lions versus the Titans, Jordan. We're both taking Mike Vrabel and the Titans here. Is this going to be any contest?
No, I think I would take the Titans from the movie Denzel Washington starred in over the Lions. The Lions are not a good football team. They're better now that they fired Matt Patricia, but still not good enough to beat the Titans this Sunday. Mitch, I got the Titans.
I have the Titans too, but Jordan, one quick thing about the Lions. Did you hear last week their center played the entire game with a fractured throat?
I did hear that.
He couldn't even speak, so Matt Stafford and other offensive linemen had to make out line calls. That's pretty impressive, and if we're talking about big balls in a good way, the Detroit Lions center has some big balls, if not the biggest balls.
Oh, absolutely. No ball's bigger than his. None.
I don't know what his name is, but that's all you need to know. He's got big balls.
That's it.
So we have the Chicago Bears versus the Minnesota Vikings, a team you're very high on, in an NFC North battle, and you're taking the Vikings. Why?
I'm taking the Vikings because back in the day, my cousin worked at Lids in Indianapolis, and since he worked for Lids, I had all these hats. And back in the day, I had this really cool visor. It was great. It was a Minnesota Vikings visor. Fell in love with the Vikings, and my love pours over from one decade to the next. I got the Vikings because Mitch Trubisky loves to give the ball away, like he's giving turkeys away on Thanksgiving. I mean, he loves to give the ball away.
You mean Mitch Trubisky that helped the Bears put up 40 points last week? You mean Mitch Trubisky that has a higher career win percentage than Deshaun Watson?
He hasn't taken his mask off yet. That's like Scooby-Doo when the villain takes his mask off and the guy you thought it wasn't. Yeah, that's Mitch Trubisky. He's not who you think he is. It's like he's not, trust me.
All right, then neither is Deshaun Watson. If Mitch Trubisky has a higher career
That's
win
fine.
percentage
I'm
than
not
you,
sitting here. I was
no,
trying to
not
save
you.
Deshaun Watson's soul. I never said he was top 5. You were just
No, not
berating
you.
a guy who was crying on the sideline. I had to protect him.
you have to look at the comments right now. We have people saying Deshaun Watson's top 5. That's just not the case. If
Oh my
your
God.
career winning percentage is worse than Mitch Trubisky,
We have people
are not
watching
top-
this show who think
Yeah.
he's top 5.
yeah.
Oh,
Can you believe
man.
that? Can you believe that? They also probably think the Oakland Raiders were a legit threat to make the playoffs this year. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. But either way, let's move on. I think the Bears win. I think Dan Bailey, I mean, we didn't even touch on that last week, Jordan.
No, we didn't.
I,
Well, there was a lot to talk about. We can't hit everything. We're not
I should have gone
octopuses.
out there and kicked field goals. I mean, Dan Bailey, my God, what are you doing? You're not kicking field goals. That's what I can. You're not. That's the one thing you're not doing.
Sarah Fuller's going for Dan Bailey's job. That's all I know.
I would have to agree. Moving on, Seahawks and Washington. Jordan, we disagree once again. I'm taking the football team who is playing great football right now. Their defensive front is playing the best out of anybody in the NFL, and I just like what they're doing right now. And they're fighting for a playoff spot. As are the Seahawks. I think this will be a very entertaining game. Why are you taking the Seahawks?
Russell Wilson's not going to lose to a team, guys, who lacks a mascot. Like, he's not going to lose to a team with no mascot. Russell Wilson is just a superstar. He might be the best quarterback in the league. I have to take the Seahawks. Have to take them.
Just like you and I have to take the Patriots on the next one because Bill Belichick versus rookie quarterbacks is a different monster. He has only ever lost to one rookie quarterback in his entire head coaching career, and that was Russell Wilson, who we just talked about. So Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins stand no chance this weekend in Foxborough, Jordan. I think we can both agree there.
Absolutely.
And Bill Belichick also isn't losing to one of his former assistant coaches in Brian Flores.
Game is over before it even begins. They
Book it.
45-0 against the Chargers 2 weeks ago. Remember that, guys. Remember that.
Moving on, the Jags and the Ravens, Jordan, this won't be a game. The Ravens are going to run all over this team. The low Jaguars are trying to lose now and just hoping the Jets win, in my opinion. But we don't need to talk about that one. The Bucks and the Falcons, another one, Jordan, we're taking the Bucks here. Are they back on track, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Breaking news. Ronald Jones will not be playing in the game, I don't believe. Typically, before someone breaks news, they double-check I didn't break it. I didn't double-check. So I'm pretty sure Ronald Jones is not playing this weekend. However, with that being said, still plenty of firepower to beat the Falcons. Still like the Bucks.
I like the Bucks too. I think they roll. Don't forget, they play the Falcons. Then I can't remember who their opponent is, and then they play the Falcons again. They play them twice in 3 weeks to end the season.
And they're not a terrible team.
They're not, but compared to the Buccaneers, I think the Buccaneers beat them both times. They need some wins to help lock up a playoff spot, and I think they get that done.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on, we got the 49ers and the Cowboys. Jordan, you're not going with Jerry's World?
I think this is going to be a really good football game, and I'm not going with Jerry's World, and I will never, ever go with Jerry's World. Sam Summers just put in the comments, Ron Jones is out, confirmed. So, guys, I did break the news. Anywho, yeah, I think the 49ers are just a better coached football team. I think Sunday, football is all about coaching for the most part. In my eyes, it is, especially at the NFL level, in the college level, in the youth football level, in the high school level, in the middle school level. It's all about coaching.
I completely agree.
Yeah, he's just going to get out coached.
And so we're just going to move on from that. And Jordan, this one shocks me. I thought you would be taking the Cardinals. We're both going with the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts getting his second start in a row. Are the Cardinals frauds?
I think they're young. I don't want to go too far and say they're frauds. I just think they're really young. This is a head coach who didn't have a ton of experience even in college. He's what, 33? Cliff Kingsbury? He's really young. Kyler's second year in the NFL, very young team. I wouldn't say fraud. Do you think the Cardinals are frauds? Is that where we're going here? Is this where you're leading me? You're leading me to think no way.
If you take a look back at the preseason and where people had the Cardinals pick to finish, they would probably have to technically be frauds because a lot of them thought, one, the Cardinals would win their division.
Most of those people were morons. But what do you think, based off of your expectations that you had for the Cardinals? Do you believe they're frauds? Because it's your expectations and how you viewed them before that matters. I don't care what Lee Corso or Stephen A. Smith or Bobby Shoeman thinks. What do you think?
They're not frauds because originally to start the year, I had picked the Cardinals to finish last in their division. And I think without the 49ers getting hurt, they would finish last in that division. That's where I picked them before the season.
But did you think they would win this many games this year and be last in their division?
The 49ers?
No.
Oh, the Cardinals. You're
The
talking
Cardinals. Yeah.
about. That I can't say yes or no. I just figured they'd finish last in the division. I guess that they have 7 wins.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, it's the second best conference in all of football. Best conference this year, I would say, because all 4 teams are legitimate.
AFC North, right?
Them in the AFC North, best 2 divisions in football.
For sure.
So going on, we have the Eagles there. The Jets versus the Rams.
The game of the week.
Game of the week.
Game of the week. Game of the week if you like to watch people get murdered on live television.
Yeah, this is not going to be a game. This game's over before it started, so we're just going to go ahead and now talk about the real game of the week, Jordan. The only game that features 2 teams above 500 with winning records. The Kansas City Chiefs at... We love some good football. I mean, we love good football. If you don't like good football, then what are you doing? So here we go. The Chiefs at the Saints. Saints still rolling with Taysom Hill after last week's loss in Philly, Jordan. You're going with the Chiefs. I'm going with the Chiefs. What do you expect here?
I really don't know what to expect. The only thing that I know, let me rephrase that. Let me start over. I know what to expect for the Chiefs. I feel like I know exactly how this game's going to play out. I don't think it's going to be any surprise on their end. I am really, really intrigued by what Sean Payton and Taysom Hill are doing behind closed doors this week because Taysom Hill looked awful last week. I never thought they should have put him in place of Jameis Winston 4 weeks ago when they started him in place of Drew Brees. I think Taysom Hill struggles big time. I think Kansas City, I think the game's a lot closer than the box score. I think the game is not going to be as close as the box score indicates.
I agree. I think that the Saints defense got embarrassed last week, and I think they will hold their own. But ultimately, the quarterback differential is what's going to win the game for the Chiefs here. Fun fact: this game is going to be the 4th highest combined winning percentage game after Week 15 in NFL history during Super Bowl era, and the other 3 games, the winner of this game has made it to the Super Bowl, but has never won the Super Bowl. Just a fun fact for you, in case you didn't know that.
Wow, you're just full of a ton of fun facts today. I'm surprised that wasn't in the after 9 headlines. Afternoon headlines.
I have to give credit to my source. I have a source that gives me a lot of information, and I also want to give a shout out to Tulsa. I just got word that we have some people from Tulsa in watching our show right now. So, greetings from Ohio. But we'll move on, and we're both taking the Chiefs, and we go to Sunday Night Football. Our Cleveland Browns are back in prime time, and this is the Freddie Kitchens and Colt McCoy revenge game, Jordan. Are you worried?
Not worried. Thank God. I would be worried if Daniel Jones was playing quarterback. Not worried like, oh, man, I think the Giants are going to beat the Browns. But having Daniel Jones makes them a threat to beat the Browns. I think having Colt McCoy is not a threat to beat the Browns. I'm really glad the Browns need this win, so I'm really glad they're playing a team that doesn't have their starting quarterback right now.
I agree. I just think it's hilarious to keep calling it the Freddie Kitchens and Colt McCoy revenge game because, one, there's a lot of people who didn't even know Colt McCoy was still in the league until he was named starter a few weeks ago. I mean, he's been in the league 10 years. Shout out Colt McCoy for keeping it going. And then Freddie Kitchens obviously didn't work out here last year. Earlier this week said he's actually happy for the fans of Cleveland. He said he's really happy to see the success the Browns are having this year. So that was cool. But the Browns should the Giants in this game, and I think they ultimately will. And that leads us to another game that will be a blowout, the Pittsburgh Steelers and Cincinnati Bengals on Monday Night Football, Jordan. Is this going to be a game?
I don't think it's going to be a game at all. I mean, the Steelers have lost their last 2 games, correct? So, like, if you don't think they're going to come out and try to put the Bengals underneath the ground, you're wrong. I think the Steelers are going to have one of their biggest margins of victory over the season. May not be over 30 points like they beat the Browns, but I think it's going to be a very wide gap. And I don't know what the line is on the game, but it has to be what, 10 points? Do we think that's what the line is?
I mean, it has to be a lot. If you give me a second here, I'll just pull up the line right now because I'm kind of curious. Oh, you got it. All right, I'll let you pull it up. But yeah, Steelers will roll over them. I mean, hey, if they lose this game, they automatically open up the AFC North race again. And I don't think they want that. A win Sunday or a win Monday night for them locks up the AFC North for sure.
Oh, for sure. And I can't find it, so maybe you can grab it. But it has to be at least 10 points. I mean, the Bengals are starting who? It's at quarterback?
Brandon Allen?
Exactly. Brandon Allen. Exactly. They're gonna suffer. They're gonna struggle. Noah Danke, 13.5. Yeah, it's even worse than I thought it was. So
shout out to Noah Danke.
Yeah, shout out to Noah.
But wow. So Jordan, before we leave the NFL segment, let's go ahead and talk about your lock of the week. My lock of the week, I took the easy way out here. I'm not going to lie. I just needed an easy lock. I'm taking the Rams over the Jets. It's a no-brainer. Who is your lock of the week?
I struggled with this because if you're looking in the AFC North, I think there's 2 matchups that you could use as lock of the week. The Ravens play the Jaguars, and the Steelers play the Bengals. The Bengals, the Jags, and the Jets are probably the bottom 3 teams in the league. So 2 of the best teams in the AFC North and in the league play 2 of the worst teams. You can pick either one of those games for the locks of the week. I don't think you can go wrong.
I would have to agree with you. And those are good locks of the week. So last thing on the NFL, give me your top 3 MVP candidates.
Whew. So, man, when I was going over that this week, I really tried to dive into as many numbers as I could because you can't watch all the games. You can't watch every play. But I tried to watch as many plays as I could, like even in reruns when I was going through all of them. And the last several weeks, Mitch, I've either had Aaron Rodgers at 2 and I've had Patrick Mahomes at 1. But I can't put either of them at 1. I can't because neither of them are as good as Travis Kelce's been. You've said this. And, you know, a tight end has never led the league in yards. Like, he might be the first one ever as a tight end to lead the league in receiving yards. He has 1,250 receiving yards. He has 9 touchdowns. And he has 90 catches. 90 catches. That's unbelievable. He has 120 targets. He only has 1 target more than Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill have.
Wow.
You could make a case that Tyreek Hill is the MVP as well, just because of how he stretches the field. And I don't think there is any wide receiver as dangerous as Tyreek Hill, but I have Travis Kelce at 1. I think I have Patrick Mahomes at 1A and Aaron Rodgers at 1B. My race between those 2 quarterbacks is a lot closer this week. Patrick Mahomes struggled, but they got the win, and they got it in dominant fashion. That game was not close. Box score says it's a lot closer than it was. But he did turn the ball over a couple times this weekend. But I got Travis Kelce at 1, Mitch.
And Jordan, Kelce's having a phenomenal season, but for the names you just mentioned of Kelce, Hill, and Mahomes, that's strictly why I have Aaron Rodgers at number 1, because he does more with less. He has Devontae Adams, yes, but Pat Mahomes has Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, Sammy Watkins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Le'Veon Bell. He is surrounded with a plethora of talent and playmakers around him. Aaron Rodgers had a fall off for a couple of years where people were counting him out. I mean, hell, the Packers took Jordan Love in the first round this year, and people were like, oh, is that the end of Aaron Rodgers? And he has come out this year and balled. And that's why I think Aaron Rodgers right now, after Patrick Mahomes opened the door last week, is the front runner for MVP, and I think ultimately will win MVP. And I'm happy to see Aaron Rodgers having the season he's having.
Yeah, I mean, I said last week that I thought there was a pretty big gap between Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, just because Patrick Mahomes has been flawless. He's been flawless. And so this was the first week we saw that Patrick Mahomes, he looked human this week for the first time maybe ever in this entire season.
And you know what's really funny? He looked human and still threw for 393 yards. That's absurd.
Well, even when they were turning the ball over, like you never thought, oh no, here come the Dolphins. Ever.
Right, never.
Ever. So, you can't go wrong with any three of those. I think you see Maurice in the chat saying Travis Kelce won't win MVP. It'll go to a quarterback. Yeah, Maurice, you're definitely right. Travis Kelce's not going to win it. I think he's arguably the most deserving of it for sure. It's close. You can pick any three of those. You can't go wrong. But, it's really a quarterback award, isn't it, Mitch? Who's the last defender? Charles Woodson, right? Isn't he the last defender to win it?
And I think the last non-quarterback was Adrian Peterson.
That's a long time.
So it's been a long time. That and the Heisman Trophy have turned into the quarterback award. You can agree to other people will disagree with that, but it's the truth. When's the last time that a non-quarterback has won either award? So that's that. But I agree with what you're saying. Travis Kelce is having a season for the record books, but ultimately it's going to go to a quarterback, and that's why I do have Aaron Rodgers up there.
Can we just change the award then? What the hell are we doing?
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why we have that award if we're going to change the criteria for it. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me.
We have Brandon Ranke asking, can Derrick Henry win it? I think Derrick Henry could have won it.
Yeah, if he didn't have 4 losses already, that's a lot.
And if he didn't have 60 yards and a fumble against the Browns. Shout out to the Cleveland Browns. I think he'd have a legitimate argument for MVP right now. But they lost that game. He was non-existent in that game. And so I think he's out of the conversation, because originally when we did this, I want to say about the week leading up to the Browns game, I had Derrick Henry in my top 3. I really did. He was the rushing leader in the NFL, most dominant back at the time. But I think he's played himself out of the conversation.
You think he played himself out, or do you think the Titans defense played him out? We can't really put the Titans defense on Derrick Henry. Had that game not been such a... it was 38-7 at halftime. When's off the top of your head, do you remember another game that has been anything like that at halftime? No. So, but, it's almost impossible to play, and he's not a quarterback. So how do you play yourself back into that? Because he's not choosing the plays.
He had a chance to stop the bleeding, though, and then fumbled the ball and gave it right back to the Browns. That was what really lost it, in my opinion. He fumbled the ball for the first time in over a full NFL season, and it gave the Browns great field position, which they ended up capitalizing on and scoring a touchdown.
Yeah, momentum's huge. So I agree. He fumbled at a very unopportune. There's never a good time to fumble, ever. There's never a good time to fumble.
No, never.
We agree on that. But there are times where if you turn the ball over at a particular time, it's almost like you had 2 turnovers there, because the momentum, once you lose momentum, sometimes it's hard to get it back, and it's tough. So I don't think that played him out, though. I think he's definitely deserving. I think there's a lot of players who are deserving that I would give it to probably before Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers.
Fair enough.
And but we can keep rolling.
According to our stats man, Mitch Farnsworth, good friend of the show, Lawrence Taylor was the last defensive NFL MVP in 1986.
And he's the best. Everybody says that he's the best defensive player ever. So it took the best defensive player ever to be the only one. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous. You have to be the best ever to be the MVP in one season. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. Just wait till Myles Garrett does it in a few years. What? Oh, yeah. Okay, let's move on. Jordan, just quickly, not a whole lot of other things to talk about in this episode, but as we know, Sam Summers usually joins the show every Thursday. He was unable to make it. He wanted me to say one thing to our listeners out there that went with his bets last weekend. It was a weekend to forget for Sam. His first week, he started out undefeated. Last weekend, he goes 0-4. And I quote, Rome wasn't built in one day.
He's right. Rome was not built in one day. It certainly wasn't. Rome, it took a while to make Rome. If you put it on a time lapse, it'd be a long time lapse, Mitch. Very long time lapse.
Yeah, he's right. But so Sam just wanted to say Rome wasn't built in one day. For his picks last weekend, Jordan, That's about all I have for that. Do you have anything for segment 3 before we move on to
Oh,
something
no.
else?
Let's do it.
Who has bigger balls?
Who has bigger balls, Mitch? Is it Dan Mullen, 48-year-old football man, or is it Alice Sweet, 26-year-old chainsaw boy? Now, ABC News 4 reported, Mitch, that police in Maine say they arrested a man after he went behind the counter at a McDonald's carrying a chainsaw, then stealing a drink and some food while revving the Saw's engine. So, Mitch, who has bigger balls? Is it Dan Mullen, who said that his player throwing a shoe 40 yards across the field was a football play? And if that's a football play, Mitch, then I want to know who taught Dan Mullen football. Or is it Alice Sweet, who took a chainsaw into McDonald's, might have killed an employee or two, and got free food?
Wow.
Yeah, that's real. That was a real tweet I put on the screen. That was real.
Folks, this is real news. I mean, we had a football coach whose player threw a shoe, and he said that was a football move. And then we had Alice, who went to McDonald's with a chainsaw.
Man.
Jordan, when's the last time you went to McDonald's and saw a chainsaw?
You know, it's been a while. It's been a minute. It's about as much time as the last time I went to Chicago and saw rope, like Dave Chappelle said. It's been a while since I've seen rope in Chicago and chainsaws in McDonald's, Mitch.
Excuse me. First off, shout out to Dan Mullen. He's the first ever 2-time appearance for Who Has Bigger Balls, and twice in 1 week. So shout out to Dan Mullen, but
Yeah.
he's not the winner this week on episode 9 of Who Has Bigger Balls. It is Alice, who decided to go to McDonald's with a chainsaw.
He did. Oh,
You
wrong
gotta have
Who
graphic.
has bigger balls?
Keep going, Mitch. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You got to have some balls, one, to just go behind the counter at McDonald's, but let alone have a chainsaw and rev the engine. Alice Sweet, you have bigger balls.
I think he's I think you're right. I think Alice Sweet has bigger balls, Mitch. I cannot imagine what would drive someone to bring a chainsaw into a McDonald's. My question is, do you think he had his mask on when he had his chainsaw in McDonald's? Do you think he kept his mask on the whole time?
No, because he was stealing a drink. If you're stealing a drink, you're definitely drinking that right away before you get taken away. Because maybe he was thirsty, so you got to stay hydrated a little bit.
Yeah, but
right?
he can't. Well, yeah, I guess you're right. Do you think he was a straw guy, or do you think he drinks it without a straw? His drink.
Definitely, if you have a chainsaw in one hand, I'm trying to think. If I have a chainsaw in one hand and a drink in the other.
And what size chainsaw is this? What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't need a straw if I had a chainsaw in one hand. So he definitely went no straw, is my guess. But yeah, that's a good question. What size chainsaw?
I don't know. I don't know. Is it like Evil Dead chainsaw, like a huge one,
Ooh.
like Bruce Campbell had in Evil Dead? I'm not sure what type of chainsaw this was, Mitch, but he might have the biggest balls of all time. As a contestant on Cover Your Balls, I think he has the biggest balls ever.
I think Alice is definitely leading for the biggest balls in the history of Cover Your Balls through 9 episodes. And Murray said he was not a straw guy. Do you think he was a straw guy?
I think he was a straw guy, and I think he bites his straw too.
Oh, he's a straw biter.
I think he is. Yep.
Well, Jordan, that brings us to the end of episode 9 of Cover Your Balls. Thank you to everybody who watched today. Followed along in the live chat. If you haven't yet, subscribe to our channel, please. Somewhere down there or up there, wherever I'm pointing on your screen, because I don't know where you're watching right now. You could be
Just
watching
do it. Stop looking at it and just do it.
And if you don't do it, why? Like, why? Just why? Just subscribe. That's all you need to do. And we can give you guys more content and give us some feedback too. Follow us on Twitter at CYB Live Show. Tweet at us with some information that you want to hear or what we could do better. And then, Jordan, we're back on Tuesday with our NBA preview for the season that kicks off on Tuesday.
Yeah, probably going to be a little longer episode, guys. Come with your NBA questions. If you have NBA questions right now, like if they're in your brain, if they're sitting there right now, send your questions to Twitter and we will answer them on Tuesday. We're really excited. I'm excited for the NBA season to start.
I am too. I can't wait to debate whether the Cavs are going to hit the over-under of 21.5 wins this year. But if you want to figure out what we think, We'll catch you Tuesday at 4 o'clock.
Tuesday.
I'm Mitch Balla.
I'm Jordan
That's
McKelly.
Jordan McKelly. We'll see you when we see you.
Later.